Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all still tuned in. If you are just coming from another track, once again, I'm Maria, and I will be your host for today's session for all things powerful brands. I hope you have your cup of coffee or tea because this is going to be an exciting new session. Now, to help you be more participative today, please, we encourage you to leave comments, interact with us, leave questions, rate the sessions because our knowledge partner, Manning, will be offering 5 lucky attendees the chance to win the ebook Demand Forecasting Best Practices by Nicholas Van de Putte. Now, again, please feel free to send in your questions over to the chat box because I'll be happy to share them with the speaker after his presentation. Now, on to the speaker, Alexander Novikov. He is the author of Not Another Pair of Shoes and CEO at Way Boutique. Alexander helped brands become purpose driven brands that make a positive impact with their purpose. He helps companies articulate their brand purpose and create meaningful content that makes an impact. Today, he will share with us how we can become a purpose driven brand by communicating our purpose and inspiring people to become more engaged with a brand. So, without any further ado, Alexander, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for introduction. Hello, everyone. So today we'll speak about how we can become a purpose-driven brand. Now, I have a question. The first question is, how can we hire 300 people? How can you hire 300 people on your payroll without paying a single euro? Now, think about this question, and you can write down some answers, some potential answers of how you can hire 300 people on your payroll, and we'll answer this question throughout the presentation, throughout the today's session. So the simple answer is having a brand purpose, but to hire 300 people without paying a single euro, it's more complicated than that. It's doable. It's very doable. A lot of people do that, but we need to go a bit deeper, and to actually hire them, we need to have a meaningful brand purpose, and we need to distinguish the difference between a brand purpose and a meaningful brand purpose. Now, a brand purpose initially, it means that a company exists beyond making profit. So they do something, they're selling something, they exchange some sort of value, and they have a purpose that is beyond their product. So a brand purpose is the reason a brand exists beyond making money. But what we want is a meaningful brand purpose. And there is a huge difference between just having a purpose or just saying that we have a purpose versus having a meaningful brand purpose that makes a huge difference. Now, the difference between the two is really straightforward. A meaningful brand purpose means that the company that has a meaningful brand purpose and articulates their purpose, they're striving to achieve greatness and make a positive impact in their customers' life. And that's huge because we can all say that, I have a purpose or I have a brand purpose, whatever. But having a meaningful brand purpose is where basically you make an impact to your customers' lives with your product, with your stories, with your service. And that's a huge difference. And that's how we start hiring those people without paying a euro, because they start becoming brand advocates. So a huge difference between a brand purpose and a meaningful brand purpose. A lot of companies, huge companies, they have a brand purpose, but it's not meaningful, and they don't succeed in creating loyal customers or brand advocates because it's just just a face front, and it's like it's not really interesting, and people don't believe. That's a huge thing that I've been thinking about in the past couple of months. Is like, do people believe in your brand purpose? Because a lot of companies, they say, okay, let's do a brand purpose. We need a brand purpose to increase sales. It's like, yeah, okay, we do need, but do you really believe in that? And the goal is not just having a brand purpose or writing a tagline, or it's showing it and making things happen. And I'll share with you 3 examples and a story of how companies they show that they have a meaningful brand purpose from different sizes, from small to large. One of the things that people usually say is like, okay, but my product is a commodity. Like, my company is how can I have a meaningful brand purpose with a commodity? Well, let's look at the toilet paper. So toilet paper, obviously, it's a commodity, right? It's like, okay, how can someone think of a meaningful brand purpose for freaking toilet paper? Well, there is a company actually called Who Gives a Crap, and the premium toilet paper, their pricing is double of a normal toilet paper. Now, what's their purpose? Well, if you go and look at their website and see what they do, and the reason why they started is because the owners, they found out, they discovered that there are 2.4 billion people that they don't have access to toilets. It's like, wow. And what it means basically is that around 280,000 children under 5 years old are dying every single year from different diseases caused by poor water and sanitation. That's a lot of children, right? 289,000 children is around um, foreigners crashing every single day with them. And they decided to do something about it. They decided to start this company, Who Gives a Crap, toilet paper, and sell toilet paper for premium. And so far, they've donated 5.3 million pounds to different charities to help, obviously, to solve this issue. Now, they're not a huge company; they're a small company. They're a B Corp company as well, which is matters, because if you're a B Corp company, it means that you care. And obviously, to become a B Corp company, it requires years actually to get qualified. So they're a B Corp company. You can see in their newsletters, in their socials, and on their website that they truly care about this cause. Um, Another company is a small company from Sweden that started in 2013, the Humble Co. Now, obviously their purpose is written on their website. They're striving to make sustainability the norm. They're not saying that they're striving to make. So this is a huge difference between saying, okay, this is what I'm doing, or I'm striving to do. And you can see that there is a problem. They're communicating a problem already, and they're saying that, look, we're striving to make, and with their products, everything that they do is vegan, is plastic free, and but their branding is just great. And 5 years ago, if you have told me that, I'm going to be buying a toothbrush and a toothpaste on a website, I was like, okay, I'm not going to, because I can get this for a pound from a local Tesco. But they removed themselves from being a commodity, really, because toothpaste, toothbrush, commodity. They removed themselves from that category, and they positioned themselves in their consumer minds, which where positioning comes, as this brand that cares about sustainability. And then we can see everything that they do revolves around sustainability. And I've introduced this brand to many people, to friends, family, at conferences, because I truly believe in what they do, and it's like I prefer to pay a bit more, but I know that they care about sustainability, and you make a small impact. Another company is UTVV. They do ultra trail running races every year, and challenge yourself. The tagline is challenge yourself, but their whole purpose is to challenge people's boundaries so they can explore their potential. With running, you have lots of events around Europe that they do running events, but how do you stand out? How do you communicate? Well, they're communicating that with their purpose, with what they believe. It's like, it's not just running. You have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge your boundaries so you can explore your potential. So what they're doing is they're helping people to challenge to explore their potential. And obviously, by going to Slovenia and running the event and doing the ultra trail event, they're doing that. And obviously, as an organization, they're they're challenging themselves. So it's another example of another company that communicates their purpose. And if you look at deeper at what they do and all their socials and their website, you'll see that what they do is aligned with their actions, are aligned with their words. Because this is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that companies face, is having words on a website versus, do you really do what you're saying? Um, then I have another story about a gift that I wanted to buy to my dad. He lives in Canada, and I didn't. It was his birthday, and I was like, I don't know what to get him. I don't know him that much. I was like, okay, what should I get him? So I thought, okay, maybe I'll get him a Beats Pill. And I was like, okay, because I have one. It's owned by Apple. They're good quality. So I went to their website. I said, okay, let me check. And I saw I saw obviously Kim Kardashian. I was like, you know what? I don't relate to her. It's like I'm not really interested. I don't want to buy. I don't want to buy anymore this brand. So I said, okay, who is the competitor? And I googled around this. I didn't remember because in my mind it was like it's the best. So I googled and I found Sonos, and I was like, oh yeah, Sonos is really good. I looked around and I found a product that I was like, okay, this is a good gift. It was a bit more than my initial budget, but I said, all right, I'll buy him Sonos. I think it's useful. But I didn't see any initially. I didn't see that they have a purpose, or just like I was very product focused. Like, okay, what's high quality, good quality, um, a bit spill, as I call it. And I said, okay, Sonos is good. But then after I think it was a week, they sent me an email, and I was pleasantly surprised because I saw that they actually have a purpose, which I was surprised. Why didn't they communicate that initially? So basically, they say they're communicating that impact matters. And I was like, okay, tell me more. Why does impact matter? Because obviously it's interesting. And I saw that they partner with different local nonprofit organizations that focus on education, inclusivity, sustainability. And I was like, okay. So I checked and I went into more detail, and I saw, wow, they have all these programs. They have programs for women that they chose 30 young women um, to have scholarships for girls, or where they teach them about videography, sound engineering, production, and then they have all these other things that like they're like, wow, that's amazing. So for me, it was like, that's amazing. Now, when I need obviously another gift, or when I need for myself, I'm going to go to Sonos because I like what they're doing. I like their purpose, and what I like most is that they track everything that they do. It's not just okay, this is what we believe, this is why impact matters, but they're actually doing so many things for people. They empower young artists from low income families as well. It's like, that's amazing. I love that. Now, with all these stories and all these brands, the question is, why do you need it? Oh, there's lots of reasons why you need it, and there's so much data on purpose-driven brands and why it's important, and all the stuff. And we won't go through the whole data. There are just a couple of numbers that are really important to understand and to really comprehend that there is 85% of people that work in a workforce today that are unhappy, done by a Gallup Global Research. Like 85% of people, they are unhappy in their jobs. That's a huge number. And then, okay, how does it improve sales? How will it improve the bottom line? And that's the number one question that the CFO has, or a CEO has, when they think about brand purpose. And they think, okay, if I invest X amount of money in this, how much I'm going to get back, which is a logical, a rational answer. But when you speak about branding, when you speak about brand stories and purpose and all that stuff, we don't make rational decisions. Well, we do in a way. We justify it by rationally, but we are emotional human beings, and there's data that shows that 78% of people are more willing to work in a company that is purpose driven. 78%, and this is a study done by Porto Novelli. Like, that's a huge number. 78% is huge. 76% of people, they trust the company more if it has a purpose, if they're communicating their purpose. Um, and the most important number for CEOs and CFOs is 72% of people, they prefer and they stay loyal to a purpose-driven company. Now, here's the important thing to consider. Not everyone is your customer, and that's why it says 72%. It's not that every single person is going to say, "Oh wow, I love your purpose," or I'll become loyal. It's a gradual process, and every single interaction that the customer has between the brand is an opportunity to show your purpose. The website, the way it looks. Like, if you look at Apple and Nike and all these brands, they get mentioned a lot at conferences and in general in books. But that's for a reason, because if you look at every single button and every single thing that they do, it's carefully curated for the experience, because it's touch points. The more touch points the customer has with your brand, and the better the experience is, the better the better it is for the company. So that's why it's important to think that, look, it's not going to be for everyone. We just need to find a small percentage of people that are willing to care. So if you think about the humble core, the example that I mentioned before, I never cared about toothpaste. I mean, it's just a toothbrush, isn't it? And I used to get the normal toothpaste and toothbrush before. I didn't care about the category before. I was like, okay, but one day I discovered the humble core. Actually, I discovered them in Tottenham Court Road, the store. I was like, oh wow. So they inspired me with their purpose. Now I became I didn't even look for their competitors. I don't know if they're in the I don't really care. But I started caring for, and I became very loyal to them, and I haven't considered buying anything else. But that's because they found the right person that I care a bit about sustainability. I mean, I try to do my best. Uh, and that's why I became hooked in a way in their brand. And it doesn't matter how big or small the company is. The other thing is, I believe that every single person on planet Earth, they have this desire to improve the world. It might be their own life, it might be their friends, their family, partners, children's, or just might be feeling that it's the right thing to do. I want to improve this. People say they want to improve this world, but the problem lies that each individual has so many things going on in their day-to-day life that it's not on the list of their daily priorities. They don't come with a list and say, okay, today I need to improve. No, of course, today's to-do list is to send an email campaign, do the post. It's not like, okay, how can I improve the world? It's something vague, really. And it's not that people don't want to, it's just we are so overwhelmed with stuff that we have going on. So for everyday person, it's really hard to think about, okay, I have so many things going on. How can I improve the world? It's like there's not enough time to think about different causes. And that's where brands come in. And that's where your purpose can come in and say, okay, we care about sustainability, or we care about this, or we care about like whatever your purpose is. Um, we do this. And that's why that 80% of people say that when they buy a product from a purpose-driven company, they feel that they're doing some part in making a positive impact. That's huge. Think about it. 80% of people, again, it's not everybody, because sometimes people, I think, they think not 80% of people, they just feel good. And I feel good that I buy Humble Co, because I feel that, okay, I'm paying a bit more, but at least I'm doing some sort of, good, from all the bad things I'm doing. But I think it's really important to understand that people are busy. We're all, well, people are busy. People have things going on. And when you communicate your purpose and you say, no, I care about this, I care about inclusivity, I care about this and that, you say, oh, okay. So you give them more reasons to buy from you. You give them more reasons to become loyal to you, because they will first first of all, they have to believe you. That's the first step. And they'll start caring. Slowly they'll start caring about the category, because the goal is not just to inspire them to care about your business, but to care about the category, like the category toothpaste, the category toilet paper, whatever the category you are in. And once they start caring more, that's once they start trusting you, they'll start caring. You can't ask people to care without trust. So you start asking them, okay, care about this problem. um and that's why, caring is such a huge thing. And there's so many times people just don't care. And when people don't care and employees don't care, it drives me mad. I was on a ride a couple of weeks ago, cycling ride, and riding with a couple of a group of riders, and this guy said, oh, he has a problem in his office, that people care too much and he doesn't. It's like, people just care too much. It's just a freaking job. I just want to come and leave and do my job, and that's it. And it's sad. It's such a sad moment to hear this comments, like, here people care because they care. That's good. We need people to care more about the stuff that they do. So a meaningful brand purpose can inspire people to start caring, and that's the main thing that really can help your brand grow and evolve and have more people. But then, where your meaningful brand purpose can become a message on steroids. That's like, because people will get obsessed in a way with your brand purpose, if it's true, if they trust you, obviously. And it becomes on steroids because people start communicating. Oh, did you hear that company? Did you hear they're doing this? They're doing this. They're doing that. That's why a meaningful brand purpose can help you can help your people, basically your customers, spread the message. Now, how? Well, the uh, the question is like, how do I make people care about my purpose? That's the question, isn't it? But a better framing of a question is how can I inspire people to care about my purpose, about the category? It's not how do I make them care about me, about my products. It's how can I inspire them to care about my purpose? And the first rule is don't do a lip service. So many companies, they just do a lip service and say, yeah, we care about this, but actions speak louder than words. Like, it's so important to communicate your values. It's so important to communicate from your heart and soul, not just saying like, oh yeah, this sounds trendy. There's so many topics nowadays, like you can see, and it's so easy to make a Google search or a research on a company nowadays and see, okay, you don't really believe in that. Equality, LGBTQ, or sustainability, veganism, all the topics that we have, social topics that we have. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a social topic. I shared a couple of examples there, sustainability and other stuff. They don't have to be. It can be, there are other issues, self-esteem, confidence. Dove, for example, they do an amazing job with self-esteem for young women. So it's not just sustainability and social issues. It can be any other issue that your product solves. So I'll share with you three questions that you can ask yourself on how you can create your brand purpose. The first thing is you have to jump in a cold shower or an ice bath and ask yourself, what is one value that you care most about? Like one thing that you truly care about. And the reason why I said cold shower is because when you're in a cold shower, you think faster because it's freaking freezing, or an ice bath, whatever you prefer. But it's important to go in a cold shower or an ice bath and ask yourself, what is one value that you care? Not 10. I'm sure you have a lot of values, but choose one, obviously, that is aligned with your brand. Like, what is one thing? Because when you have 10, 5, it's just like, choose one and think about, how does my product, my service improve my customer's life? What change do we make? And choose that value and try to figure out how can you obviously integrate it into your brand and say, okay, this is how we are making a change. So that's number one. But it's important not just to sit in an office. You have to go and have a cold shower. Like after the whole day today, you can go and have a cold shower and think. It's like, what is one value that I truly care? What am I willing to die for? Not literally, but you know what I mean. It's like, what am I willing to die for? This is one value. I want to really, really, really help people with this. It's putting other people in front, not letting our ego get in the way. Number two is, who is the enemy? When you create a brand story, when you communicate, you have to have an enemy. It's like it's one of the most important things. What are we fighting against? Who is the enemy? So think, who is the enemy, and how are we going to tackle this? So that's the second. And third question that you need to ask yourself is, what change are we making in our customers' life, rationally and emotionally? Now, we have to think that we are not all rational human beings. You want a pair of shoes, for example. You want a pair of running shoes, and you say, okay, the price of a Nike is 100, and a price from I don't know, Amazon in China or whatever is £10. You might think, okay, the £10, they're the same shoes. They most probably they're done in the same factory, isn't it? But the emotional mind says no. But if I wear Nikes, I'm going to feel better because of different reasons, or Adidas, or whatever the brand is. But it's important to understand how you make a change in customers' life, rational and emotional. It's not just rational. So many times we just think it's rational, it's rational. It's not. It's emotional as well. You have a coffee at home, an espresso, for example. You want coffee, that's rational. I'm going to buy an espresso. But the emotional reason why I have an espresso is because I feel sophisticated, maybe subconsciously, just like George Clooney, because he's in the brand ambassador. And it's like, oh, I have high quality coffee at home. So that's the emotional reason, or it might be just, yeah, I can be a barista with touching one button. You know what I mean? It needs to be rational and emotional, and you have to think about both, and you have to communicate both at different times. And we have to think where the customer is in their journey, because not everybody is ready to buy. Oh, I'm going to run 100 kilometers. Well, Some people are just thinking of running, they're thinking of running 5K. You can't go and tell them, go and run 100K. They're just contemplating of running 5K. You can't ask them to run 100. So you have to consider where the customer is on their buying journey. Looking for an apple, for example, an apple, I mean, my Mac, not an apple from Tesco. It's like, okay, where are they? So you have to cover all the journey. You have to see, okay, I'm going to create content, or I'm going to they're in this category, or they're in this category. So you have to think about that really hard. And the last part is go from I to we. So many times, we look at brands and they say, oh, I do this, or I won this award. It's like, oh, I did this. It's like, that's ego. Like, okay, nobody cares. Like, really, nobody cares. I have someone that I know that won an award, business award, and they go on and on about the award. It's like, okay, you told us you won an award, but how does this improve my life? It doesn't. It's just ego boosting that you won an award, and we know that winning an award. I mean, come on, you pay, you pay to enter, and you pay a bit more, and you have this. So it's like, it's the ego is just so powerful. So the goal is to think, okay, how can we make a change? How can we fight this enemy? Because we are fighting an enemy. It might be, like I say, it might be what do you call it, laziness. It might be so many things. So go from I to we. Important. So 300 people. How can you have 300 people on your payroll without paying a single euro or penny? Well, the answer is really simple. Is find one person. Find one person that truly cares, or inspire one person to truly care about your purpose, the stuff that you're making, and then slowly, slowly, that one person is going to tell another person is going to tell another person. The hack is not making more Facebook ads and Instagram ads. The hack is making a better product. The hack is making baking baking well, you can bake, making better stories that can inspire people to talk about your stories. I shared someone's article a couple of days ago, because it was great. It was written really good. It was, the insight was there. I shared a couple of products. I shared with you these examples because the product is really good. That's why it's so important to focus on the product, to focus on the stories, because stories what make change happen. Stories inspire us to make change happen. And stories is not something new. It's not something that Alex on a random Wednesday is telling you. Stories have been used throughout our history. That's how we made change. That's how stories make a huge difference. They can make a huge difference. And then focus on articulating and creating better stories, because sometimes you might say, or might think, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, but that's not a story. That's just, you're telling facts, or you're telling what you're doing. It's important to understand that the way we communicate, the way we show, it can be video, it can be social, it can be art, it matters. If for example the content is shit, nobody's going to watch it. I have someone that does a podcast, and they've invested a lot in the studio. They've invested, I think it was around 7,000 euros into creating the studio. Yeah, it was 7,000 euros. And I was like, wow. And so they invested 7,000 euros. But the host doesn't have a basic skills of interviewing, because when you interview people, you need to pause, you need to let the other person speak. And I watched the first episode. Well, I watched the first 10 minutes. I was just like, wow, this is boring. And it just reminded me, like, you can have all the fancy cameras and all the fancy studios, but if the product is not good, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to watch it. And looking at their numbers, it's like, well, you can't expect it to go up. It's just like, it's just crap. And that's why I'm always focus on the product, focus on how you communicate, focus on the stories, focus on the whatever you do, just do it better, because people are not going to be so engaged. So getting 300 people, 600 people, 900 people, this is how you can get people to become your brand ambassadors. That's how you hire them, because they start speaking, they start communicating, they start sharing their experiences. It's really simple in a way, because then slowly you can grow. But a lot of times we focus on, I need to jump on TikTok, I need to jump on do a podcast, I need to do this. No, you can just do writing, you just can do videos, but do them to the best of your ability and try to do it better, and be open-minded and self-aware, and realize, some things, some stories are not that good, and you need to improve. Because once you communicate that purpose, your purpose becomes their purpose as well. And that's why it's so important to inspire with purpose. And I think we'll have Q&As now. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you so much, Alexander, for that very interesting presentation. I was actually really enjoying that presentation because I also work in the commodities part of the business. It's not necessarily something that, let's say, for example, a smartphone or a t-shirt, for example, that you can use a lot of messages to really differentiate yourself. So I like your example about the company who gives a crap. I think that's a really good example. Even the name, it's already like catchy, and it's a toilet paper. So it's something that's could be simple, given that nice messaging and nice purpose, I think really actually makes a difference. I think that's really interesting. But what I wanted to ask you is, I know you talk about brand purpose and a company, having message about showing how much you care for others. But how do you do the actual work within your organization? I mean, I think it's easy to put a message out there externally, but how do you then do the work internally? Because I guess that has to do a lot with the company culture, right?
Yeah. It starts actually with internally, because if the company culture is toxic, if the leader is not willing to listen, and there is in some cases that I worked, and I could see that the leader, the founder, was like, I want this, and they didn't want to open their mind to new ideas or their new way of thinking. So everything starts internally. You can't just, and most of the times people say, okay, this is our tagline, and when I ask how did you come up with the tagline, they say, well, it just sounds nice. Well, a tagline needs to be supported by a story, and the story needs to be supported by internal culture. So before creating a story or before creating a tagline, anything, you have to fix the culture inside, because if the culture is toxic, you're going to pay a lot of money, but it's not going to change because it's unorganized, it's toxic,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think that your first customers aren't necessarily your buying customers. Your first customer are your employees. So for you to have, let's say, a nice service that you can provide, for example, to your customers. I'm talking about salespeople, for example. If you have motivated salespeople, engaged salespeople, they're going to go the extra mile for your customers. Therefore, you're going to have happier customers. Whereas if you don't have salespeople or people that are not motivated, not willing to do more than is expected or going beyond, then obviously you're not going to be able to satisfy your end customers as well. So I think it's important that brands or organizations recognize that your first customers are your employees, not your not necessarily your buying customers. So that, I think that's really important to note. Another thing that you mentioned is something about sustainability. And there's, I guess, like a lot of messages about sustainability these days. A lot of companies want to project that they're sustainability, but where do you draw the line about, caring for sustainability and coming across as greenwashing?
Well, a couple of months ago, we had a company, Boohoo, that hired or worked with Kylie Jenner as a sustainability partner, and they got backlash because Kylie Jenner uses her private jet to fly like for an hour or something. And it just was a great example of how you have to do a bit of research, and you can't hire Kylie Jenner or any of those type of people, because they're the opposite of sustainability. They use private jets to fly from, there was a lot of jokes like, yeah, I'm going to go from one part to another part in London by my private jet. So, there's a line, like people consider that it was blatantly a marketing plot, that Yeah, so the line is basically, if you don't believe in that or if you don't want to do that, you shouldn't. Just simple as that. I don't know why company. Well, I understand profits, but it's like just leave it alone because people are gonna get really angry, and especially sustainability activists and vegans.
Mhm.
People like, yeah,
People will recognize that. People
yeah,
can
of
see
course,
fake
yeah,
these days. Yeah,
yeah,
consumers are like smarter these days. They know when someone's actually telling the truth and when it's just plain marketing
yeah,
gig. I think that's why it's important that us marketers these days we're more authentic. I think that's the new call for marketers these days. Just be authentic because consumers are much smarter. We see a lot of content online. Now we just have to filter which one matches our preferences, which one is relevant for us. Do you have any other examples of companies that we could look at? So for the brand managers or marketing managers um, watching us, do you have any other examples of companies that we could look at and you yourself you believe in what they do?
yeah. Huel is a really good company that I like what they do. So they do it's food basically, powder in England. I think they're in Europe. No, they're global in England, but I've been a customer for the past, I don't know, 4 years now. So basically it's meals, very sustainable.
Mhm.
um, they do really good job on sustainability, and obviously that's one of the selling points and their purpose. um, that's one company. Another company that well, I mentioned the Humble Core. um, Hugh comes to mind. That's first. Yeah, I don't remember any. There's plenty of companies, just they don't come to mind now because it's hard to figure out sometimes if they're real or not. But like the companies that I mentioned, I know they are because I've researched and yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to ask was that I know that there's kind of like a gap between consumers wanting to do something. So consumers saying something versus consumers wanting to do something. So a
Mhm,
lot, for example, of consumers say, "Hey, I want to be sustainable, so I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy
mhm,
that." But they don't actually do it because
mhm,
in a sense sustainable products or products that are a little bit more on the organic side, bio side, are a little bit more, expensive. So how do
mhm.
we, as brands or marketers, find the balance between kind of just pushing a lot of the purpose or a lot of that messaging about being sustainable versus actually driving customers to really engage? Or how do we drive um, loyalty when it comes to giving messages about sustainability or like the purpose? Because I think the purpose part of the message hooks you, and let's say when you're trying to build brand awareness, but how do you then drive loyalty for that let's say part of the customer segment that you want to target?
You drive loyalty by being honest, and I think a great example is Patagonia when they advertised and said you don't need this jacket. And except Patagonia, there's a small company called Asket. They sell minimalistic clothes, and their whole thing is like, don't buy more t-shirts, just have one or two, but really high quality. And it goes down to minimalism, owning less stuff, living with less, but having more high quality stuff. And I personally, I am a minimalist, and I adopted that mindset, and I always choose to pay a bit more, have less stuff, but having more quality. So brands, they need just to communicate and say, look, this is more you have to pay because, and explain. There was actually a good advert a couple of weeks ago that I saw. They said this shoe costs more because, and they explained, if you want something cheaper, go Amazon, for example. And it was really good because they were authentic. They explained why this pair of shoes cost more. So I think brands need to just say, okay, this is what we are. We charge more because of ABC, but and educate customers why, because we don't know. I don't know a lot of stuff. It's like, why does this I don't know, a pair of shoes cost 100 versus when I can get it for 50? Okay, shoes, we know brands, but it's like, whatever your category is, like, why do I need to pay 50% markup Is it profits?
Mm.
Is it because you're greedy, or is it because you put more time and ingredients? And that's why I say, I always say, find the right people, because the you know cheap people are everywhere. We want cheap stuff, but it's making clear, like, when we buy something, for example, I don't know, sometimes we buy stuff that, like, I look for the cheapest. That's it, because because I don't value as someone else, but and maybe because I don't know why. So yeah.
Mm. That's really interesting. So again, we thank you so much for that very wonderful presentation that you gave. I think that it was very insightful, and I think it's very helpful, especially for those that probably has not figured out yet, their purpose in for their brands or for their organizations. To everyone that's listening or tune in, if you have any questions or you would like to connect with Alexander, where can we find you again?
And anywhere, LinkedIn, Instagram, just if you Google, you'll find me everywhere.
Okay. Thank you so much,
I
everyone.
thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Alexander.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.